Well, the use of chemical weapons, so far unverified, would represent a significant escalation in this war. But how are such claims verified, and what might be the response if it's proven to be true? Professor Marie Chevrier is an arms control expert and joins us now. Professor, welcome. When we talk about chemical weapons, what exactly does that mean in layman's terms?
Well, in layman's terms, a chemical weapon could be any chemical that causes a deleterious effect or a harmful effect on humans, plants, or animals. The Chemical Weapons Convention, which is the international treaty that prohibits the development and use of chemical weapons, defines chemical weapons slightly more narrowly so that it limits it to toxic chemicals that have their effect on the human body through chemical processes.
And how do you go about verifying something like this?
There are various ways. You can look at blood and urine of the victims. You can do a physical investigation of the area where the weapons have allegedly been used, and that provides pretty good proof. The chemical under consideration right now that has been alleged that the Russians have used is a chemical called white phosphorus. White phosphorus is an incendiary. It causes smoke, it causes burning, particularly severe burns on the human body. But because it's not the chemical properties of white phosphorus that causes those issues, it is not considered a chemical weapon under the international law that defines chemical weapons.
How devastating would the use of chemical weapons be in this war?
Of course, that depends on what chemical is used, where it's used, and who it's targeted against. If it's targeted against civilians and it was a nerve gas or a more recently developed chemical weapon by the Soviet Union, it could cause massive casualties, massive deaths. If it is not that difficult, that sophisticated of a weapon, it could cause less injuries. So far, the reports are only of a handful of people getting sick, probably from inhalation of the smoke of the white phosphorus. But that could change dramatically if another agent were used.
The UK Foreign Minister says the British government would hold the Kremlin to account if these reports were verified. Realistically, what can the West do? Well,
first of all, the West would be in a much better position to verify the use of chemical weapons in Ukraine than it was in Syria, for instance. So the Syrian government has used chemical weapons in Syria, but it was hard to get into Syrian-controlled areas to prove that. That ultimately was done, sometimes short weeks and sometimes months after the chemical was used. In Ukraine, it will be easier to prove it. It would go to either the Security Council or the Organization for the Prohibition of Chemical Weapons to decide what to do with Russia under those situations. I would guess that if Russia violated the Chemical Weapons Convention, it would be a lot more pressure on China to stop supporting Russia, and maybe even Belarus, but that's less likely.
Professor Marie Chevrier in New Jersey, thank you very much indeed for talking to us.
Thank you.